From the Guest House by Madeline McQueen. Hannah's trainer skidded on the marble floor of the hall. She grabbed the wooden rail that ran along the wall to steady herself. Had to keep on her feet, had to get out. Running on again, she strained to see through drifts of smoke. Sweat trickled down her neck in the heat. Smashed paintings and blackened chandelier fragments littered the floor, and the huge front door loomed at the end of the hall, smoke coiling around it in the gloom. She fumbled back the bolt, wrenched it open, and sucked in a lungful of fresh air. Paused, listened for any sounds in the hallway behind her, any signs of life inside the house. Flames crackled and the building groaned as it began to crumble and fall apart in the heat. Stepping outside, she pulled the door shut behind her, leaned against it, and took in more clear air. The storm had calmed, but the rain was still beating down onto the empty hillside that sloped away before her in the night. She went to the heavy garden bench beside the door, gripped the cold metal of an armrest and dragged it forward. Her muscles burned. The iron legs of the bench screeched against paving stones. Hand shaking, she turned to the electronic security pad beside the door and tried to key the code to lock it. Hurry up, hurry up. From Eeny, Meeny by Madeline McQueen. Sam is asleep. I could kill him now. His face is turned from me. It wouldn't be hard. Would he stir if I moved? Try to stop me? Or would he just be glad that this nightmare was over? I can't think like that. I must try to remember what is real, what is good. But when you're a prisoner, the days seem endless and hope is the first thing to die. I rack my brains for happy memories to hold off the dark thoughts, but they are harder and harder to summon. We've only been here 10 days, or is it 11? Yet normal life already seems like a distant memory. We were hitching back from a gig in London when it happened. It was pouring with rain and a succession of cars had sailed past without a second look. We were soaked to the skin and about to turn back when finally a van pulled over. Inside it was warm and dry. We were offered coffee from a flask. Just the smell of it was enough to cheer us up. The taste was even better. We didn't realize that it would be our last taste of freedom. When I came to, my head was pounding. Blood coated my mouth. I wasn't in the warm van anymore. I was in a cold, dark space. Was I dreaming? A noise behind me made me start, but it was only Sam stumbling to his feet. We'd been robbed and dumped. I scrambled forward, clawing at the walls that enclosed us. Cold, hard tiles. I crashed into Sam and for a brief moment held him, breathing in that smell I loved so much. Then the moment passed and we realized the horror of our situation. We were in a disused diving pool, derelict, unloved, and it had been stripped of the boards, signs, and even the steps. Everything that could be salvaged had been, leaving a deep, smooth tank that was impossible to climb out of. Was that evil shit listening to our screams? Probably. Because when we finally stopped, it happened. We heard a mobile phone ringing and for a brief, glorious moment thought it was someone coming to rescue us. But then we saw the phone's face glowing on the pool floor beside us. Sam didn't move, so I ran. Why did it have to be me? Why does it always have to be me? Hello, Amy. The voice on the other end was distorted, inhuman. I wanted to beg for mercy, explain that they made a terrible mistake, but the fact that they knew my name seemed to rob me of all conviction. I said nothing, so the voice continued, relentless and dispassionate. Do you want to live? Who are you? What have you done to... Do you want to live? For a minute I can't reply. My tongue won't move. But then... Yes. On the floor by the phone you'll find a gun. It has 1 bullet in it. For Sam or for yourself. That is the price of your freedom. You must kill to live. Do you want to live, Amy? I can't speak. I want to vomit. Well, do you? And then the phone goes dead, which is when Sam asks, what did they say? Sam is asleep beside me. I could do it now. From Leaving Time by Madeline McQueen. Some people used to believe that there was an elephant graveyard, a place that sick and old elephants would travel to die. They'd slip away from their herds and would lumber across the dusty landscapes, like the titans we read about in seventh grade in Greek mythology. Legend said that the spot was in Saudi Arabia, that it was the source of a supernatural force, that it contained a book of spells to bring about world peace. Explorers who went in search of the graveyard would follow dying elephants for weeks, only to realize they'd been led in circles. Some of these voyagers disappeared completely. Some could not remember what they had seen, and not a single explorer who claimed to have found the graveyard could ever locate it again. Here's why. The elephant graveyard is a myth. True, researchers have found groups of elephants that died in the same vicinity, many over a short period of time. My mother, Alice, would have said there's a perfectly logical reason for a mass burial site. A group of elephants who died all at once due to a lack of food or water, a slaughter by ivory hunters. It's even possible that the strong winds in Africa could blow a scattering of bones into a concentrated pile. Jenna, she would have told me, there's an explanation for everything you see. There is plenty of information about elephants and death. That is not fable, but instead cold, hard science. My mother would have been able to tell me that too. We would have sat shoulder to shoulder beneath the massive oak where Mara liked to shade herself, watching the elephant pick up acorns with her trunk and pitch them. My mother would rate each toss like a limpet judge. 8.5. 7.9. Oh, a perfect 10. Maybe I would have listened, but maybe too I would have just closed my eyes. Maybe I would have tried to memorize the smell of bug spray on my mother's skin, or the way she absent-mindedly braided my hair, tie it off on the end with a stalk of green grass. Maybe the whole time I would have been wishing there really was an elephant graveyard, except not just for elephants, because then I'd be able to find her.